Hello, Clarice. You know what you look like to me with your good bag and your cheap shoes? You look like a rube. A wild scrub hustling rube with a little taste. Good nutrition's giving you some length of bone, but you're not more than one generation from poor white trash, are you, Agent Starling? And that accent you've tried so desperately to shed, what is it, pure West Virginia? What was your father dear? Was he a coal miner? Did he stink of the lamp? You know how quickly all the boys found you, all those sticky, tedious fumblings in the back seats of cars, what you could only dream of getting out, getting anywhere, getting all the way to the F, the B, I. If you can't half tell, I'll be reviewing The Silence of the Lambs today by Thomas Harris. I don't like it as much as Red Dragon, although the movie Silence of the Lambs is much better than the movie Red Dragon. But the book Red Dragon is better than the book Silence of the Lambs. Not to say it isn't a fantastic book. Excuse me. Now, there are spoilers in this review. For me to properly compare the book to the movie, I have to spoil the book. So if you haven't read it, the spoilers will most probably come around the middle of the video. So if you really, really want to read it and don't want any me to give away any surprises, maybe don't watch it. Otherwise, settle in, because I'm going to be talking about The Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris. The storyline is about a young FBI trainee named Clarice Starling, who is given a job to talk to a serial killer who's been locked up for 8 years, to try to get a profile on a currently active serial killer called Buffalo Bill, who's killing women and flaying them. There is a movie, a very famous one, starring Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter, who is the psychiatrist that Clarice Starling has to go see in the hospital. A cannibal, in fact, who killed a lot of people. So she has to go talk to Hannibal Lecter, and straight away he hasn't really talked to anyone in years and years. People bore him. He's so super intelligent and quite clinically insane that no one really gets his attention until Clarice Starling walks in. And straight away, he's captivated by her, and he hasn't been captivated for anyone in a very long time. He starts giving her little hints, because he's that clever. When she gives him the case file of Buffalo Bill to look over, straight away, he takes an hour to read it, and he knows who Buffalo Bill is. He's that he's that clever a profiler himself that he's put it together more than all them FBI agents has. And so he sends her on a chase to find Buffalo Bill. And he won't give it away all at once. He makes it very difficult for her, and he puts her in some very scary situations. Now, the head of the FBI, the chief, or the director of the FBI is Jack Crawford. In the film, he's played by Scott Glenn, and Scott Glenn does a fantastic job. When I read the book, I picture Scott Glenn in the book, doing all the lines, and he's perfect casting. So she has to track down Buffalo Bill. Now, in order to do that, she has to give Hannibal Lecter information about herself. And they swap that back and forth every time she meets him in the asylum. And she'll tell him something personal about her childhood, and he'll give her a bit more information about Buffalo Bill. And he gets into her head. But what he finds out is she's a very, very deep, very complex person. The reason she's an FBI agent is because something happened to her when she was a child, and she was orphaned after her father was shot and killed. Her father was a night watchman. He wasn't a police officer, he was just a night watchman. And Hannibal has a lot of fun sort of being mean to her about that. And he's shot and killed surprising burglars coming out the back of a liquor store. And she has to go and live with her aunt and uncle on a horse and sheep ranch in Montana. Now, one night she wakes up and she comes down the stairs because she hears a noise. And the noise she hears is screaming. And it is the screaming of lambs. They are slaughtering spring lambs just before the sun comes up. But that's not what gets her. So this is where I have to compare the book to the movie. In the book, they're also killing her horse. It's her horse. She loves this horse. It's the only sort of bond she has with anything on this farm. And they're putting this horse down, this mare. So while the lambs are screaming in the background, Clarice jumps on her mare and escapes, runs away to save this horse's life. But, you know, the sheriff ends up catching her. They bring her back, and the horse is put down anyway. No matter what she tried to do, the horse was killed. So she couldn't save the horse. She couldn't save the lambs either. Now, in the movie, there is no story about a horse. She takes a lamb and runs with it because she tries to save one fat, heavy lamb. And they killed her lamb. So, I don't know if this is true, but I like it in the book with the horse. It kind of makes a bit more sense. With the movie, it's almost like they kept the horse out of it because they thought it might confuse the audiences, maybe. Silence of the Lambs, what's it got to do with a horse? But yeah, so that's like one of the only big differences. The characters in the book are a lot darker. I'd seen the movie when I was really young, so I knew some of the, you know, the dialogue in that film. I can't really talk about it now because I'd have to censor my own video. But some of the dialogue in the book is much worse than the film. I remember reading it thinking, wait, is that a misprint? Like, do I have a weird copy of this book? Did he just say that? My friend Maddie Jennings, shout out, he'll know the scene I'm talking about, when Clarice first goes to the asylum and an orderly just says something so horribly disgusting to her. And I think it plays to the fact that she's a young woman in her early 20s dealing with serial killers and FBI agents and stuff, and how, you know, insensitive they can be to a young woman. But it's quite horrible. Now, the killer who's killing these women, Buffalo Bill, he is terrifying. He's a transsexual who, you know, I'm not going to give that bit away, what his whole mission is, because that's really cool when you find out about it. If you've seen the movie, you'll know. But yeah, when she realizes what he's skinning them for, that's when she realizes how she's going to catch him and who he is and all that kind of stuff. So, but every night, Clarice, when she falls asleep, she hears these lambs screaming. So, you know, she wants to try to save these victims of Buffalo Bill. And then just like that, now that she's on the case, a woman is kidnapped. And it is the daughter of Senator Ruth Martin, named Catherine Martin. She's kidnapped out the front of her house in a very, very Ted Bundy-esque way. Buffalo Bill pretends he's crippled, he's got a handicap, and he coaxes her into his van where he brutally assaults her and kidnaps her and keeps her in the bottom of the well, where he gets her to rub lotion on her skin so that it keeps her skin supple and soft, where he starves them, shoots them, and skins them. Now, they've got about 3 days for Clarice and Jack Crawford to find Catherine Martin, while Hannibal's really dragging his feet along to, you know, give them the information they need. So the race is on. And, you know, the metaphor there is Catherine Martin, of course, is the lamb or the horse. You know, Clarice has to save her, because then the lambs might stop screaming. It's a really cool metaphor. The movie really hits it right on the head with that. Now, I like to talk about the books more than the movies, but this movie won 5 Oscars. It got Best Director, Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Adapted Screenplay. It had 63 wins across the board, plus 50 other nominations. It's absolutely fantastic. But I think the actor who played Buffalo Bill, Ted Levine, he should have got an Oscar. He's in it more, well, I don't know if he's in it more than Sir Anthony Hopkins, but Sir Anthony Hopkins got the Oscar. Whereas, you know, sure, he deserved it, but I reckon Ted Levine deserved it. He was so much scarier as a killer, like on the loose. So I'm just going to finish with, and you know, you might be mad at me for doing this, I am going to finish with the last sentence of the book, because it nearly brings a tear to my eye. And so if you want to skip this because you're going to read the book, stop the video now, I won't blame you. The last sentence is this: but the face on the pillow, rosy in the firelight, is certainly that of Clarice Starling, and she sleeps deeply, sweetly, in the silence of the lambs. They couldn't have put that line in the movie. It wouldn't have fit anywhere. It just fits so perfect in the book, and it's just like, oh my God, that's just such a good ending. You know, it has a happy ending. The ending to Red Dragon is really unhappy. So the next book in the series is Hannibal. And Hannibal is getting a review from me because I think it's a fantastic book on its own. The movie, I liked it. A lot of people didn't like the movie. I think the movie's great. The book is so much better. The ending to the book is so much better than the ending to the movie. So I'm not going to do Hannibal tomorrow, but I will be doing it. I will most certainly be doing it. So I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to review tomorrow. I'll think about that. So if there's anything that you want me to review in the future, please feel free to leave it in the comments section below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and take care of one another and read some good books. Thanks.